the time has come for me to speak about the story arc that centers around the past of my favorite character in Jujutsu Kaisen. The creatively titled Gojo's Past arc takes us back in time to the year 2007, as we follow Satoru Gojo during his second year at Tokyo Jujutsu High. Surprisingly, he is studying alongside his then best friend Suguru Geto. I'm going to probably sound like a broken record at this point, but so much happens within the short span of this story arc. We see the downfall of the character of Suguru Geto. We witness Gojo activating the true power of his curse technique, the Limitless, and we see both Gojo and Geto working together in order to escort what is known as a star plasma vessel to an important individual that we are introduced to in this arc called Master Tengen. Tengen is an immortal Jujutsu sorcerer who exists to reinforce the barriers that protect both Tokyo and Kyoto Jujutsu High. In order to maintain the immortality that Master Tengen has, he has to reset his body after every 500 years. He does so by merging with a specific human being who is known as the Star Plasma Vessel. During this arc, we see Gojo and Geto escorting the Star Plasma Vessel to Master Tengen, and how they deal with opposition from various parties who oppose the merging of the Star Plasma Vessel with Master Tengen. One such group even hires an individual called Toji Fushiguro, who we learn is the father of Megumi. This individual has an excellent battle with Gojo in this story arc, and I cannot wait to talk about the battles that take place within this story arc, and all of the events surrounding the escorting of the Star Plasma Vessel to Master Tengen. So without further delay, let's talk about the story arc that introduces us to an early version of Gojo, that explains to us the downfall of Suguru Geto, and lastly makes us aware of the beast that is Toji Fushiguro. Before the video begins, only 20% of the people who actually watch my content are subscribed to the channel. If you enjoy these videos, then subscribe and stick around for more content just like this. Now let's get back to the topic of the video. The Gojo's Past arc is the 7th story arc within Jujutsu Kaisen, and it takes place between chapters 65 to 79, spanning a total of 15 chapters. This is of course the first manga exclusive story arc that we are covering in our Jujutsu Kaisen arc analysis series. The arc begins with the second years of Tokyo Jujutsu High Gojo and Geto arriving to assist two Jujutsu sorcerers who were sent on a mission but have disappeared. The grade 1 sorcerer Meme and the grade 2 sorcerer Utahime had been trapped within a haunted mansion, as it appears that the building continues to overlap the space on itself, resulting in the sorcerers being trapped in a never-ending loop. After Gojo and Geto successfully help the sorcerers, we are then introduced to another second-year student of Jujutsu High called Shoko. After successfully completing the mission, Gojo is scolded for not putting up a curtain and concealing the activity during the mission, as the incident at the haunted mansion was now being reported on the news. This then leads to a very fascinating conversation that occurs between Gojo and Geto, as Gojo questions whether if it matters if regular people see Jujutsu sorcerers and cursed spirits. Through this conversation, we learn about Geto's strong moral compass, which is a stark contrast to his present appearance within the story, as one of the key antagonistic forces in opposition to the world of Jujutsu sorcery. At this early chronological point in the story, Geto had believed that the prevention of cursed spirits is the most important role that Jujutsu sorcerers play for the safety and peace of mind of non-Jujutsu sorcerers. Gojo reveals his rebellious nature, as he doesn't believe that they should keep cursed spirits hidden away from normal civilians. He adds to this by saying that it is such a pain to look out for the weak. Geto corrects him by stating that society should protect the weak and keep the strong in check. Jujutsu sorcery, he states, exists to protect non-Jujutsu sorcerers. Gojo, who continues his role as a devil's advocate in this conversation, questions if Geto is being righteous here, because he hates that stuff, as he states that applying reasoning and responsibility to Jujutsu sorcery is what weak people do. It is really funny to hear Gojo speaking like this. After knowing these two characters fairly well from their present events within the story, you would think that it would be Geto who is questioning protecting the weak, but in fact he is reaffirming the role of Jujutsu sorcerers and advocating for protecting the weak. Just as the conversation gets heated and they are about to start fighting, they are broken up by the arrival of the then grade 1 Jujutsu sorcerer Yaga. At the end of chapter 65, he assigns them with a very important mission. He warns them that this is a very important mission because it comes from an individual called Master Tengen. There are two objectives that Gojo and Geto need to complete to escort what is known as the Star Plasma Vessel to Master Tengen, and the second objective being to erase her. The Star Plasma Vessel appears to be a young girl who is still in school. At the start of chapter 66, Yaga goes on to explain why Master Tengen needs the Star Plasma Vessel, as we understand that Tengen's curse technique that he utilizes forces his body to change every 500 years. Master Tengen needs to to merge with a compatible star plasma vessel. Master Tengen is revealed to possess immortality, but it doesn't stop the aging process. After Master Tengen reaches a certain age, then his body will try to evolve. This will lead to him transforming into something that is no longer a human, as he will have ascended to a higher state. The objective is to prevent this from happening, as Master Tengen himself has stated that his will or consciousness will cease to exist once he reaches that level. Master Tengen will effectively no longer be himself. It is vital for Master Tengen to remain intact, because like I mentioned earlier, he has constructed barriers that protect both Tokyo and Kyoto Jujutsu High, which are the pillars of the Jujutsu world. Master Tengen also plays a role in any additional barriers that are made by sorcerers, as he also serves to strengthen them. Without the security that Master Tengen offers, it would be even difficult for sorcerers to undertake missions, and the worst case scenario would be that if Master Tengen evolves, he could become an enemy to humanity, and it is for this reason that once every 500 years, Master Tengen needs to merge with a compatible star plasma vessel. This will rewrite his body's genetic information, thus effectively preventing this evolution from occurring. Yaga also reveals that the location of the star plasma vessel has been leaked, unfortunately, and there are two groups who are also targeting the girl, and it is up to Gojo and Ghetto to protect the star plasma vessel from these two opposing parties and to safely escort her to Master Tengen. The first group of individuals that has learnt about the whereabouts of the star plasma vessel is a group called Q. They are an organization which aims to overturn the current Jujutsu world through having Master Tengen evolve and lose his sense of reasoning. And the second group are worshippers who treat Master Tengen as their deity. This religious group is known as the Time Vessel Association. Gojo and Ghetto have 2 days until Master Tengen needs to merge with the star plasma vessel under a full moonlit sky. If Gojo and Ghetto fail at this mission, then the consequences will be grave, as it will affect the entire world. Their mission begins as they quickly encounter members from the group Q. They attempt to kill the star plasma vessel, but Ghetto manages to save her. They then deal with the two soldiers from Q who had attempted to kill the girl. Meanwhile, we see that the Time Vessel Association has hired an assassin to eliminate the star plasma vessel. The group Q is able to utilize cursed energy, while the Time Vessel Association is filled with non-Jujutsu sorcerers. So it is for this reason that they have hired an individual called Toji Fushiguro, who is apparently a former member of the Zenin family. In chapter 67, we learn the identity of the star plasma vessel. She is called Riko Amanai. Gojo and Ghetto are prevented from taking Riko back to Tokyo Jujutsu High by Master Tengen himself, as he states that she needs to enjoy the final days of a young life, thus allowing Riko to return to school and to spend the final few days of her life with her friends. Ghetto has a lot of sympathy for the life that Riko will live after she merges with Master Tengen. She will effectively be abandoning her friends, family, and everything that she holds dear, because after the merger she will reside below Jujutsu High maintaining the barrier. So now Ghetto on Gojo's mission is to allow Riko to enjoy her last days. Toji Fushiguro, the assassin that the Time Vessel Association had hired, ends up posting Riko's photo on the dark web. He has placed a $30 million bounty on her head. This is exactly the amount of money that the Time Vessel Association is paying him. He is aware that nobody will be able to successfully complete this assassination, since they will be going up against Gojo. This is just a part of his plan to keep Ghetto and Gojo busy and to wear them down. He has effectively hired free labor. Now this is where the true enjoyment for me occurs within this story arc, as despite this arc being called the Gojo's Past arc, the character of Toji Fushiguro has so many highlights here, as well as the latter portion of this arc focusing heavily on Suguru Geto and his mindset, and how his sense of morality and ultimately how his belief about protecting non-Jujutsu sorcerers changes. Eventually, two curse users respond to the bounty that Toji had posted, an old man and a muscular man who is wearing a paper bag over his head. Ghetto thankfully detects them thanks to his surveillance curses. In chapter 68, Ghetto is easily able to take out the elderly curse user. Meanwhile, Gojo is able to locate Riko and he escapes with her, but he is eventually confronted by the masked curse user, as he utilizes his curse technique which allows him to surround Gojo and Riko with clones. In chapter 69, Gojo easily takes care of the cloning curse user. The group then spends their time relaxing on the beach at Okinawa. Eventually, the third and final day of their escort, the day of the merger, arrives. By the time the group arrives at Tokyo Jujutsu High, the bounty that was placed on Riko's head had expired. After entering into the barrier of Jujutsu High, they all express a sigh of relief, as even Gojo believes the mission to be over. But right at that moment, Toji impales Gojo from behind. They are shocked he was able to bypass the barrier of Jujutsu High. At the start of chapter 71, it is revealed that Toji was aware of the talents that Gojo had possessed, as he had once visited Gojo while he was a child, knowing that he possessed the 6 eyes. He comments that this was the first and last time that anyone was aware of his presence while he had stood behind them. So it is for this reason that he had made sure that Gojo and Ghetto were on their toes through the bounty that he had placed on Riko's head. He was able to successfully attack Gojo from behind after ensuring that he was worn down. Gojo is able to reassure Ghetto that he is okay, as he tells him to complete the mission by escorting Riko to Master Tengen, while he stays behind to face off against Toji. Gojo is able to deduce that Toji possesses zero cursed energy. In addition to this, he is incredibly fast, which makes it difficult to read his moves. Gojo's opponent here has an insane level of physical ability. This is why this encounter is incredibly fascinating. You have one of the most fearsome antagonists of this story, Toji Fushiguro, who has no zero cursed energy, facing off against the strongest Jujutsu sorcerer. During this encounter, Toji is able to take the upper hand and actually defeat Gojo through the use of the inverted spear of heaven, which is a special graded curse tool. It has an astonishing effect which allows it to forcibly stop any curse technique. It works perfectly against Gojo because to his detriment, he had relied far too heavily on his limitless technique. Up until this point in the story, Gojo was touted as some immortal being, somebody who could not be defeated, but this encounter really knocks his character down a peg, proving with the right strategy, Gojo can be dealt serious harm, and can even be mortally wounded. It's just really surprising and unpredictable that a non-cursed user was able to defeat Gojo. I mean, once Toji has the upper hand, he doesn't hold back in the slightest. He knows that he is up against a monster, and it is for this reason that he repeatedly stabs Gojo all over his body. The level of sadistic brutality cements Toji Fushiguro as one of the most formidable antagonists within Jujutsu Kaisen. He literally walks away from Gojo, who is lying in a pool of his own blood, something that I did not expect to see on the onset of this story arc. We then catch up with Ghetto and Riko as they arrive just outside where Master Tengen resides. In chapter 72, Ghetto instructs Riko on how to get to Master Tengen, but at the same time he expresses some compassion as he gives her an alternative choice, saying that she can turn back and return home. He says that when they were assigned this mission by their teacher, the merger was described as something that erases the star plasma vessel. So at the onset of this mission, both Gojo and Ghetto had decided that if the star plasma vessel should refuse to merge with Master Tengen, then they will call off the mission. You can see that despite the differences that these two characters have, they have a solid foundation which they have built their friendship upon, and they both agree that the star plasma vessel should not merge with Master Tengen out of force. Gojo and Ghetto even jokingly agree to fight against Master Tengen if that's what it comes down to, because after all, the two of them are the strongest. Ghetto reassures Riko that whatever she chooses to do, both he and Gojo will protect her future. At this moment, Riko thinks back to her life. She had thought that she would be okay with leaving everybody, because she had known she was always special, and no matter how painful it would be to leave everybody, she had believed that someday the sadness and loneliness that she feels will disappear. But now at the nth hour, just as she is about to merge with Master Tengen, she wells up in tears and admits that she doesn't want to leave everyone. She wants to see more of the world. She wants to do more things with her friends and family. It is at that moment that Ghetto offers Riko his hand as he suggests that they return home, abandoning the merger. But tragically, the life of this girl that we have been following for the entirety of this arc is cut short, as she is shot through the head by Toji Fushiguro. After taking out the star plasma vessel and enraging Ghetto, he boasts to him that he has killed Satoru Gojo. Because Toji has zero cursed energy, he is effectively an invisible man. He cannot be detected, but he admits when he utilizes cursed tools, the cursed energy that seeps from those tools makes it so that he is no longer invisible, and it is for this reason that he had used a gun to kill Riko. He was able to appear undetected and take out the star plasma vessel without Ghetto realizing. During this battle between Ghetto and Toji, we learn a lot about his abilities and the secrets to his incredible physical prowess. He has a heavenly restriction that he has placed upon himself, which gives Toji superhuman physical abilities. He had gained this through eliminating all of his cursed energy from his body. Despite Ghetto's best efforts, he is taken out by Toji. The group had started off so confidently on this escort mission, Gojo and Ghetto being among the strongest Jujutsu sorcerers. They had failed in protecting Riko, and they were ultimately defeated to an individual who cannot even use Jujutsu sorcery. This is of course to be expected from the father of Megumi Fushiguro, a powerful and very dangerous man. Toji delivers the corpse of the star plasma vessel to the Time Vessel Association. After leaving, he is shockingly confronted by Gojo, who appears to have survived and healed himself. There is something maniacal about Gojo's presence here, as he exclaims that he feels like a new person. It is apparent that Gojo has utilized reverse curse technique. He wasn't able to do so in the past, but right as he was on the verge of death, he had understood the core of cursed energy. After utilizing reverse curse technique to heal all of his wounds, he now faces off against Toji in their rematch with his awakened limitless ability. Gojo utilizes a technique that not even members of the Gojo family know about. This is the first time ever that Gojo utilizes Hollow Technique Purple. Gojo's ability erases Toji's entire left arm, along with a portion of his torso. This fatal wound concludes their rematch, and once again cements Gojo as the strongest Jujutsu sorcerer. In his final words to Gojo, he tells him that in 2 to 3 years, his child will be sold to the Zenin family. With this information in mind, he tells Gojo to do as he pleases, of course hinting at Gojo to take care of the future of his child. After the death of Toji, the focus of this arc shifts to the character of Suguru Geto, and between chapters 76 to 79, Geto has a radical change in mindset. After healing up, Geto catches up with Gojo as they retrieve Riko's body from the Time Vessel Association. The members of this religious group appear to be clapping at the corpse of Riko, as they are glad that Master Tengen will remain intact and that the Star Plasma vessel was killed. It is like they don't even recognize Riko as a human being, like they see her as an object that solely exists to fulfill a singular purpose. After hearing the applauding, Gojo asks Geto if he wants to kill the audience. Geto states that it is pointless. Geto affirms that a Jujutsu sorcerer needs to have a reason to take a life. 1 year after this, in August of 2007, it appears that Gojo has continued to develop his abilities. He is left behind Geto and he now stands alone as the strongest Jujutsu sorcerer. Geto appears to become despondent with this admission that Gojo is now the strongest. He can handle missions on his own, and since his other teammate Shoko never went on dangerous missions to begin with, Geto has found himself going on dangerous missions on his own also. He had been busy dealing with the constant repetitive cycle of exercising cursed spirits. He started to struggle with the endless cycle of exorcism and consumption. He thinks to himself that the taste of consuming a cursed spirit is a taste that nobody knows. It is like ingesting a rag that was used to wipe up vomit. He questions his purpose and for whom that he is doing all of this for. Those individuals who are applauding at the death of Riko. He was slaving away for non-Jujutsu sorcerers who have no power to do anything, yet express their ungratefulness in their every action. Ever since that day he had witnessed the religious group applauding Riko's death, he started to struggle with following through with his duty as a Jujutsu sorcerer. By being a Jujutsu sorcerer, he is choosing to protect those individuals that he refers to as powerless monkeys. In chapter 77, Geto ends up having a conversation with a special grade sorcerer called Yuki Tsukumo. She tells Geto about her desire to get rid of every single cursed spirit. She believes that Jujutsu High only treats the symptoms, and that what she is trying to do is to get to the root cause of the problem. She desires a world where curses don't even exist, so there will be no need to even exercise them. We are aware that cursed energy leaks from humans and it gathers in large quantities to form cursed spirits. So if this is the case, there are two proposals to eradicate the world of cursed energy. The first being to eradicate cursed energy from all of humanity, or the second being to teach humans how to control their cursed energy. While the first option is rather difficult to accomplish, Yuki has focused her efforts on the second. She states that because Jujutsu sorcerers have learned to control their cursed energy, they don't give birth to curses. A Jujutsu sorcerer is able to control the amount of cursed energy that leaks from their body, when compared to a non-Jujutsu sorcerer. Yuki proposes that if every single human being on Earth were to become a Jujutsu sorcerer, then curses would no longer be born. But this appears to trigger a thought in Geto's mind. Thinking back to the members of the Time Vessel Association, he proposes an alternative third option, which is to just kill every non-Jujutsu sorcerer, thus ridding the world of curses. Yuki admits that this would be the easiest way to create a world without curses, but she isn't crazy enough to force the evolution of an entire species in such a manner. She ends up questioning Geto if he hates non-Jujutsu sorcerers, to which Geto reveals that he used to think that Jujutsu sorcerers existed to protect the weak, but recently he has been having doubts whether if these non-sorcerers are even worth fighting for. Geto is struggling with resisting that feeling of not looking down on non-sorcerers. Their weakness is like a form of ugliness to him. Yuki leaves Geto to decide between what his true feelings are, whether if he is going to look down on non-sorcerers, or if he is going to continue his duty as a Jujutsu sorcerer and to protect them. Before Yuki leaves, she reveals to Geto that Master Tengen has stabilized, despite the death of Riko. This has most likely occurred because another Star Plasma vessel exists, or another one has just recently been born. Towards the end of chapter 77, Geto learns that one of his fellow students, Yu Haibara, has died on a mission. Nanami had survived revived as he relays the details of the mission to Ghetto. The death of a Jujutsu sorcerer who was one of his fellow peers adds to the darkness that is now forming within the mind of Ghetto. Ghetto asks himself that if being a Jujutsu sorcerer is like running a marathon, what if at the end of that road, when you cross the finish line, you discover a mountain of corpses of your fellow sorcerers? He wonders if it is worth it, all of this effort to help ungrateful non-sorcerers. About a month later, in September 2007, Ghetto is sent on a mission to a village. He ends up exorcising a curse that is haunting the village. He discovers that two little Jujutsu sorcerers are being held in a cage and blamed for the actions of the cursed spirit. It appears that the two girls were physically assaulted and held prisoner, being falsely accused for something they did not do. They are referred to as monsters by the villagers, and it is at this point that Ghetto finally snaps. He ends up murdering all 112 of the villagers as he frees the two girls, and he finally makes his decision to become a curse user. He was no longer able to resist the feeling of looking down on non-sorcerers. The actions of these villagers had proven to him that non-sorcerers are beyond redemption, and they are not worth risking your own life for. At the start of chapter 78, Yaga tells Gojo about Ghetto's change in character, as he reveals that Ghetto has even stooped to such lows as killing his own parents. The two of them have no idea what has gotten into him. Gojo ends up confronting Ghetto in Shinjuku as he demands that he explain himself. Gojo reminds him that it was Ghetto who had stated that pointless killing is useless, but Ghetto states that his killings have a point and there is a meaning to it. He also sees it as a form of justice. Gojo states that it is impossible to kill all non-Jujutsu sorcerers. Gojo states that it is impossible to accomplish something like this, and for this reason it is pointless. But Ghetto, who acknowledges the difference in power between the two of them, states that if Gojo had wanted to, he could kill every single non-Jujutsu sorcerer. Gojo is trying to convince him that this task is impossible when he could easily do it himself. Ghetto affirms that this is the life that he has chosen. He is not going to turn away from it, and the only thing that he can do is to give it his all now. He tells Gojo that if he wants to kill him, then he should, because it would not be a meaningless death. But in the end, Gojo isn't able to bring himself to kill his best friend. Later, Gojo admits to Yaga that despite him being so strong, he can only save those who want to be saved. Ghetto then ends up taking over the Time Vessel Association, while Gojo tracks down the son of Toji Fushiguro. Gojo tells him that he will take care of him and his sister, but in return he is going to have to work extra hard for him. He wants Megumi to get strong so that he doesn't get left behind, desiring for him to grow up to become a fine Jujutsu sorcerer, not anything like his father or Suguru Geto. This concludes the Gojos Past arc, as we are taken back to the present day, where we are shown build-up which is leading up to the upcoming Shibuya incident arc. We learn the identity of the mole that has been feeding information from Jujutsu High to the curse users. We learn that the individual under suspicion is from Kyoto Jujutsu High. The identity of the alleged mole is Mekamaru. Yuji and the others begin their investigation as they arrive at the home of Kokichi Muta, the individual who controls Mekamaru. After kicking the door down, we learn that the real Mekamaru is not at home, which all but confirms his role as the mole. We then cut to him appearing before Ghetto and Mahito. It appears that the real Mekamaru had made an agreement with the curse users. In exchange for information, Mahito would heal his body with his ability Idol Transfiguration. Because Mahito had formed a binding vow with Mekamaru, he is left with no choice but to heal him. And so the chapter ends with Mekamaru about to begin his battle against Mahito. After having the entirety of Gojo's past explained to us, and learning more about the world of Jujutsu Kaisen through the introduction of Master Tengen, learning about the father of Megumi and the downfall of Suguru Geto, the arc perfectly wraps up with explaining how Gojo had come into contact with Megumi, as it then takes us to the present day as it builds up for the events of the Shibuya incident arc. Easily the longest story arc of Jujutsu Kaisen that is highly regarded by fans as one of the greatest shonen story arcs of our modern time. So what did you think about the impactful Gojo's Past arc? Did you enjoy this story arc as much as I did? And what are your thoughts about the Shibuya incident arc, which I'll be breaking down in great detail in my next Jujutsu Kaisen arc analysis video. So definitely subscribe and turn on the bell notifications so that you're the first one to know when the Shibuya incident arc analysis is released. And lastly, thank you for making it to the end of this video, and I can't wait to see you in my next Jujutsu Kaisen video. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more like it, then please consider supporting my channel on Patreon. I have multiple tiers with rewards including access to an exclusive Discord server, video scripts, as well as being the first to know about unreleased upcoming videos. Thank you for your time, and whatever you choose to contribute I will appreciate, and it will mean a lot to me.